You ever move somewhere thinking it's gonna be your quiet new start, and then realize you just stepped into somebody else's little kingdom? Yeah, that was me, 3 months ago. I just retired from 25 years on the force, half of that in SWAT, the other half behind a desk with too much coffee and too little sleep. I thought I'd finally earned peace. Bought this house on a tree-lined street in a small town called Meadow Creek. Quiet, clean, friendly smiles. The kind of place where neighbors wave and the loudest thing you'll hear is a lawnmower on Saturday morning. I told myself, this is it. This is home. First few weeks were perfect. Boxes unpacked, garage turned into a workshop, met a few folks. Old man Rick across the street, always trimming his hedges. Nice young couple next door, brought banana bread on day 2. Evenings were just the sound of crickets and the smell of fresh paint. After decades of noise and adrenaline, that silence felt like medicine. Then one morning, I walked out to find a bright red paper tucked under my truck's wiper. Violation notice, it said. Apparently my grass was too tall, 1/4 of an inch over the community limit. Fine, $50. Signed by Marcia Pennington, President, Meadow Creek Homeowners Association. Now, I'd seen my share of small-time bullies, people who get a whiff of power and lose their minds. But this one, she was new. The kind of person who talks about community standards like she's running the Pentagon. I laughed, tossed the notice on my counter, and went about my day. But the next morning, there were 2 more, one for improper trash bin placement, another for unapproved driveway marking. $125 total. I looked at my yard. It was perfect. My trash cans. Out for maybe an hour after pickup. I knew right then, this wasn't about rules. This was about control. So I looked her up. Marcia Pennington, 60s, sharp haircut, runs the HOA board, out of her garage with a few local cronies. The kind who never got over being class president in high school. I decided to ignore her once, mistake number 1. By week's end, she was leaving notes on my door, taking pictures of my house from across the street. I could feel that old cop instinct kicking in, the one that says something's not right here. Next day I drove down to the county clerk's office, an old marble building that smells like paper and politics. Asked for records of the Meadow Creek HOA. The clerk typed for a while, squinted at her screen, typed again. Finally, she sighed and said, "There's no HOA registered under that name." I asked her to check variations. Nothing. No bylaws, no covenants, nothing on file. That's when it hit me. Marcia's HOA didn't exist. It was fake. She'd just made it up, printed letterheads, mailed fines, and everyone on the street had been paying because they were scared to make waves. Now, I could have walked straight over there and ended it right then, but after 25 years in law enforcement, you learn, never confront a con before you've got the whole web mapped out. So I started building a case. Called my old lieutenant, Carla Diaz, sharp, calm, too good for the politics that come with the badge. "Carla," I said, "run a quiet background on a Marcia Pennington. Off the books." She laughed. "What? She steal your hedge trimmer?" "Worse," I said. "She thinks she runs my neighborhood." That night I set up cameras, small, discreet, nothing fancy. One by the porch, one near the driveway, one watching the street. I even dusted off an old gadget from my SWAT days, a panic ring that sends a live feed to Carla if I ever press twice. My house wasn't a home anymore. It was an operation. I hated that feeling, the shift from peace to preparation, but some habits die hard. By Friday, she made her move. I was sipping coffee when a black SUV with tinted windows rolled up. Out stepped 2 men in what looked like police uniforms, cheap ones. The badges were shiny, too new, and the patches didn't match. Behind them, Marcia, clipboard in hand, face stretched into this smug little grin like she was about to crown herself mayor. One of the fake cops barked, "Mr. Jack Nolan?" "That's me. We have a warrant for your arrest, for noncompliance with community bylaws." I almost laughed. The paper he waved had a seal from a judge who retired 5 years ago. But I didn't laugh. I smiled, calmly, and said, "Of course, officers." They cuffed me on my own porch while Marcia stood there watching, chin up like she'd just conquered Rome. "You brought this on yourself," she said. "We don't tolerate lawbreakers here." I looked her dead in the eyes and said quietly, "You sure you want to play this game, Marcia?" She smirked. "Oh, I already won." That's when I pressed my thumb against the ring, 2 taps. Somewhere across town, Carla's phone lit up and the live feed began. Every second, every word, recorded. They shoved me into the back of their SUV and started driving. Inside, the air smelled like stale coffee and cheap bravado. The one in the passenger seat turned around, grinning. Should have just paid the fine, old man. I stayed silent. He didn't know silence was my weapon. What he also didn't know was that when they'd pushed me toward the car, I'd palmed a magnetic GPS tracker from my pocket and slapped it under the bumper. By the time we hit the main road, half the city's finest were already shadowing us. No sirens, no lights, just quiet precision. We drove for about 20 minutes toward the industrial district. The driver was on the phone, muttering something like, "Yeah, we got him. Heading to the spot." I figured the spot meant some empty lot where they'd rough me up a bit, scare me into paying. Classic bully move. But this time, the bully was driving straight into a trap. As we turned into the deserted road, a beat-up construction van pulled in front of us, slowing down just enough. Another black sedan slid in behind, boxing us in. To the left, a pickup truck eased up, Boone's truck, one of my best men. The driver cursed, slammed the brakes. Tires screeched, and before the dust settled, all three unmarked vehicles opened up. Real cops this time. Doors flew, weapons drawn, voices shouting commands in perfect unison. Police. Hands on the dash. Don't move. The two fakes froze, their fake bravery draining right out of them. The back door opened, and there was a rookie officer with wide eyes and steady hands. "Chief, you okay, sir?" I smiled. Never better. They took off the cheap cuffs, and I rubbed my wrists. The switch flipped. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was back in control. The two imposters were hauled out, faces pale as chalk, while Carla read them their rights. From their SUV, we pulled everything. Fake badges, stacks of red violation slips, envelopes of cash, $5,000 worth, and a burner phone with one name in the recent calls, M. Pennington. We had her. Dead to rights. Within hours, the warrants rolled in. Her house, her storage unit, every account under her name. What we found in that unit looked like something out of a cheap crime drama. Industrial printer, boxes of forged notices, files on every house in Meadow Creek, complete with photos, tax records, and notes like intimidation works and target newcomers. She'd built her own shadow government, bleeding people out of fear. She even had files from other neighborhoods, different names, same scam. She'd been doing this for years. That evening, we learned she was holding a board meeting in her garage, probably trying to figure out why her goons hadn't called. So we surrounded her house, quiet as ghosts. Through a directional mic, I heard her voice, sharp and angry. He was supposed to be easy. Now he's vanished. She was still pretending she had an organization. It was almost sad. I gave the signal. We hit the side door. "Police. Don't move." The garage lit up in blue and red. Marcia froze mid-sentence, then bolted for the door to her kitchen. She didn't make it 2 steps before Boone cut her off. She screamed, "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president." I walked up slow, pulled out my own cuffs. "Lady," I said, "you're under arrest for fraud, impersonation, and racketeering. You don't run this neighborhood. You terrorized it." The click of those cuffs was the sweetest sound I'd heard all year. When we let her outside, the whole street was out watching. Neighbors who'd been scared to speak, standing there with their phones out, filming the queen finally fall from her throne. Rick from across the street yelled, "Guess my mailbox is compliant now, huh?" The crowd laughed, a sound of pure relief. Marcia glared at me through the patrol car window and hissed, "You haven't won." I just smiled. "No, ma'am. We all did." A month later, she was sentenced to 15 years, plus restitution for every dime she stole. Turns out she'd raked in over $250,000 from fake HOAs across the county. The court seized her printers, cars, bank accounts. The state even set up a hotline for victims, and within weeks, 2 other copycat rings got shut down. Now the street's peaceful again. Kids play basketball in the driveways. Rick waves from his mower, and I finally sit on my porch with my coffee, listening to the quiet I thought I'd lost. Not the kind that hides fear, but the kind you earn back after standing up to it. I keep one of her fake badges on my desk at the station now, a reminder that authority isn't about paperwork or titles. It's about trust. And when someone abuses it, you don't hide. You fight back, with truth, with proof, and with the people standing beside you. So tell me, what would you have done? Would you have ignored the first notice, or gone straight for the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you'd handle a bully in your own neighborhood, because trust me, they're everywhere.